When you consider buying a complete gaming TV, year after year, people consider the LG C series as the go-to gaming option. This year, Samsung has decided to have an OLED TV that caters to that same audience, and this would serve as a direct competitor to the LG C series lineup. The TV that we're talking about is the S90C, and I'm putting that up against the LG C3 today, and we're going to focus more on gaming than anything else. So most of this video is going to be about gameplay for the TVs. But everything I say about gaming can also be carried over to other video content as well, such as movies and TV shows. And those of you trying to make a buying decision, I will have some buying advice later on in the video towards the end, so stay tuned for that. As many of you are aware, both of these TVs are known for having gaming features that other TVs just don't have. And both of these TVs have 4 HDMI 2.1 ports for 4K 120Hz gaming. Both of these TVs also support VRR, and they have a unique game menu function that displays game information, and it allows shortcuts to useful game features as well, and you have specific picture presets that you can save for different genres of games that you are playing, which can be very helpful. One unique thing found on Samsung TVs is Game Motion Plus, which is motion interpolation for game mode at a decently low latency. LG, however, has no way of doing this without adding a ton of input latency, making it unplayable in most cases. But when it comes down to the performance and input latency of regular game mode, historically Samsung and LG TVs have led the way here with under 5 milliseconds of input lag at 120Hz. And this is the case this year as well, so there's no surprise there. Unfortunately, when it comes down to the game mode picture quality, LG falls very short of what the Samsung S90C can deliver. In my experience with the TV side by side, I noticed a clear difference between the two TVs. LG had a clear lack of color vibrancy. If you take a look at this example from Forza, take a look at the glow, and you can see that on the LG, it's just missing the presence of color brightness for scenes like this. It looks flat and painted on, where the Samsung looks like the glow is beaming off of the TV. So this is a really big thing that I look at when I'm looking at game mode, is what TV is going to be more impactful, especially when we're talking about HDR scenes like this. Vivid colors come alive on the S90C in game mode, but not so much on the LG C3. As you might have heard me discuss with the LG G3, this is a problem with LG's game mode, and there's no workaround for the LG OLEDs unless you are using auto low latency mode and the picture mode of your choice. But it has to be noted that your PC's graphics card or your game console has to support this function in order to use it. And I mentioned this greatly helps the G3's picture quality, but unfortunately for the case of the C3, this doesn't help it that much at all, and it really doesn't get close to QD-OLED like the G3 does. This is mainly due to the technology differences. I would say MLA truly helps the G3 get close to QD-OLED. As far as HDR tone mapping options go, both TVs have different options to please the accuracy crowd and the picture pop crowd. But in my personal opinion, I do feel that the C3 really does lack the HDR impact compared to the S90C, and I would say I'm more on the picture pop side of things when it comes to gaming. So please keep that in mind when valuing my opinion. The peak brightness difference is also very noticeable between these two TVs, so that is something you will see. Speaking of HDR, there's a number of HDR titles where I noticed a good amount of color posterization in the skyboxes of games and in some heavy gradients, where this was cleaned up a lot more on the S90C, though it was still present in some titles. And the thing to remember here is that these things are always active in the games themselves, and it's up to the TV to clean it up with a feature like smooth gradation. And unfortunately, while the LG OLEDs have this, the setting itself doesn't seem to actually change anything while engaged in game mode. Samsung TVs don't have this feature at all, but again, they do seem to clean it up better natively. And if you're looking for a TV that does this the best, Sony TVs would give you the best options, as their smooth gradation feature does work quite well in game mode. Now, of course, most of these observations were done using HDR in games, but I've also tested SDR as well, and unfortunately for the C3, this does have the same peak brightness restrictions as past LG OLED TVs I've tested. So yes, that means that the peak brightness is still locked down to the off setting for the SDR game mode. And with the S90C, this is not the case. Peak brightness can be adjusted to your preference. In regards to upscaling lower resolution, the LG C3 does an okay job, but the S90C does do it a little bit better in my eyes, but neither do it as well as the Sony TV. Another crucial factor that we must discuss is screen uniformity. I can honestly say that every QD OLED I have reviewed has been surprisingly clean and exhibited no kind of banding, tinting, or dirty screen effect, where I can definitely not say the same thing with the WOLED panels, like the one found in the C3. So in sports games, racing games, and anything with side-scrolling, you can notice a clear difference. But it is not all roses for Samsung. One thing we really have to discuss is going to be firmware updates. While Samsung has been good so far this year as far as firmware updates goes with the QD OLEDs, I think that there's always this factor in everybody's mind that what if they mess this up? And that's a fair thing because a lot of people weren't happy with the changes that were made to the S95B, whether it helped the TV or hurt the TV. When you have two different crowds of people, when you make a service update change that changes picture quality, one side's going to be happy and the other's going to be unhappy, and that's not a good thing. So I don't like that Samsung dramatically changes picture quality with firmware updates. So you will have to watch out for this. And if you buy a Samsung TV, a lot of people will recommend that you take it offline. And it's hard to argue about that. But it is really just hard to say take something offline when it is a TV meant to be online. A lot of people buying these TVs are going to want to use the online features and not have to rely on secondary devices to stream their movies or TV shows. So yes, I understand that you won't want to take this TV offline, but you have to understand there are risks with the Samsung TV in regards to firmware updates. And while they have been mostly good this year, there is always that underlying factor and that thought in the back of your head that they could change something dramatically on your TV. Whereas LG historically has been pretty good about not changing anything dramatically on your TV in regards to picture quality. So, you do have that going for you if you are going with the LG. But you are going to not have as great of a picture quality, in my opinion, than the S90C. And service updates aside, if it sounds like the S90C is better than the LG C3, it's because it is. Clearly. Now, I don't want you to think that the C3 is a bad TV. It's truly not. And most people who end up with the TV will likely love it because on its own, it's a really amazing TV, like most LG OLED TVs of the past. But I think that's the issue here, is that if you've already owned an LG OLED or any WOLED for that matter, in the past 3 or 4 years, it feels about the same as those. And when you compare it to anything sporting a QD OLED panel, it's not really a fair fight when you add up all the pros and the cons. Now I'm going to go into my buying advice for you guys, and before I do so, I just want to remind you that I do have the links for the TVs that I'm talking about today in the description below. All the TVs that I review on this channel so far have been TVs that I have bought myself to review. So if you want to support the channel and to see more TVs in the future, please consider using my affiliate links in the description below when you are deciding to buy your next TV. Thank you so much for considering that. In my opinion, there doesn't seem to be a reason that I can find to recommend the C3 over the Samsung S90C, or even the cheaper option, the Samsung S95B. But to me, it's hard to justify spending your money on older technology when the newer technology is more impactful in many different ways, and it's almost the same price, or in the S95B's case, it is cheaper. So if you're a gamer looking for a really good TV, I think the majority of you guys would prefer going with the QD OLED over a traditional WOLED TV. But I would love to hear your answer. What TV would you guys buy between these two TVs if you were looking at these TVs? Please tell me in the comments below. And if you like this video, I think you'll like this TV comparison as well. So go ahead and check that out. Thanks.